You know, when you're looking for patterns for quilts in magazines and in the books, they give you a big old long shopping list of the fabrics that you need to get. However, it is a bit of a mistake, well, quite a huge mistake actually, to get everything in one go, particularly for your borders and your sashing and even the binding. And there's a really good reason for that. I'm going to tell you exactly what that is and what to do about it in this video. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You're very welcome. Come with me to my cutting mat and I'm going to show you exactly what's what and what you can do about it. Come on. Why don't I want you to buy all of your fabric in one go? It's because your fabric colours change as you make your block. Now, let me take you through a couple of examples and show you. So this block here, if you have been watching my videos, you'll recognise this from another video where I have been doing some demonstration. And we've got, in this block, we've got a whole variety of colours going on. So you might have decided beforehand that you're thinking that your borders or sashing should be this green, but we've also got a whole myriad of other colours that we could play with and could potentially set this particular block off. So let me just take you through the process. And this is a process called auditioning your fabrics. So you audition your fabrics when you go and buy your fabrics for your main blocks in the first place, but when you get to your borders or your sashing, it's the same treatment. We need to audition them then with a completed block. Let me show you why. So let's talk about a green in the middle. Now I have run out of this lime green, just annoyingly, but don't worry, I've got another block to show you. If I put a green to the right of it, you'll see that that doesn't really work. It may have worked with this one, so let me get one that's a bit closer. This is a grunge, there we go, which is a little bit better, and it does kind of work to set all this off, but it's not quite there. Now, let me look at the dots in this blue, because we've got yellows, we've got blues, we've got pinks and all sorts of things. We've got whites in there as well. Let's have a look at yellow. So I might be in the quilt shop and looking at yellow and going, oh, well, bit too dark, that one is. Can you see how that's just overpowering this block here? So let's get rid of that. Let's go for a lighter yellow and see. I apologise, this is out of my stash box and it's all a bit crumpled, but never mind. So this is looking a lot better. It lifts that blue of the background. Can you see how this starts to pop out far more when we've got this lighter yellow here, and it's picking out these little yellow dots in the backing or the background of our applique here, but it's not drawing it loads to our attention, but it still looks good. Yellow is a complementary colour to blue, so it nicely sets that off and gives some excitement and some interest to our block. So that is a good possibility that we could use that yellow. Let's put that to one side. What about maybe a lilac? Because if we're talking complementary colours, then the purple range of colour or hues is in the complementary range to greens. If I hold these up, so the green and the lilac might work together, but it doesn't really work with that background. It's okay. I wouldn't say no. It depends the look you're after, but it's not quite working. It's not quite lifting it enough. So I don't like that. So I'm going to ditch the lilac. What about some of these blues here? Okay, now this is a grunge sky blue, and look at that. Okay, let's open that up a little bit. Can you see how that lifts this quite a lot? Let's fold that over. So this grunge here picks up all the little blues in here, and the darker of this sort of distress look that you get in the grunges beautifully goes in with the darker background that we've got going on here. So this is a definite possibility that I might choose for my borders or my sashing. So if I'm looking at blues, let's have a look at a solid blue. This is just a sky blue but in a solid, and let's see how that works. And in fact that works as well. So I might choose that blue or this grunge sky blue. That works well. Or I might choose the yellow. Let's get the screen all centered up on the screen. The reason for showing you this is because can you see how these three fabrics change the look of our block so much? Now, as I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at that on the camera or on the screen in front of me, this yellow is fighting a bit with this green. So I'm not liking that very much anymore. It goes very nicely with this blue background fabric. And if you're buying your borders right at the beginning, this is what would happen. And this is why I wanted to show you this, because when you're in your quilt shop and you're buying this and you're thinking, oh, this would be marvellous, and look how the yellow goes very nicely with my blue, so that would make a perfect border, wouldn't it? Well, no, it doesn't, because when we've got it laid out here, you can see how much that changes when we've got this green in place. See, the green and the yellow might go nicely together if you looked at them in isolation, but when we look at them all three together, that doesn't really work, does it? So I'm going to ditch the yellow. Sorry, yellow, you're off. Then if we're looking at those two, you've got a choice there. We've got this sky solid over on the left. It is more sky than a turquoise, and we've got our grunge sky blue over on the right here. When we're looking at those two, again, can you see how the power balance, I guess, is playing out with these three sets of colours? So this blue here on the left-hand side, this solid sky, is kind of fighting with that yellow in the middle. It goes again very nicely with this blue here, the dotty blue, goes beautifully with that. So again, you might be very justified in saying, I'll choose the blue to go with that. And it does go with that on its own. But when we've got this lot together, it starts fighting with that green, and they start playing for attention. It's a bit like two kids squabbling, going, me, 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 I want me, no, I want me, look at me, no, look at me. So your eye doesn't know where to fall. So we need to look at that power balance between the fabrics. Even though it goes, it fights. So I'm going to ditch that, and let's have a look at this sky blue, because I think personally this would be my go-to. It works beautifully. So when it's in border form, let me just fold this underneath a little bit to just show you what that might look like with that, all this stuff out here. You can see how we've got a really lovely blend into the blue, but it doesn't overpower our limey green in the middle. So I think for this block, I would choose this grunge sky blue. This is why you need to go to a quilt shop and audition your fabrics, or if an online shop gives samples, get some samples. Don't be frightened of getting a few little samples, even if you have to pay £1 or something for them. It will really help to audition those fabrics in against your block. Now, before you go, let me show you another block. We'll just go through the process together. So let me put that to one side. At this time, I've got this Disappearing 4 patch, which I recorded for a video a little while back. This hasn't been layered yet or quilted, but I can choose, go through the same process, because when you're choosing the fabrics, you might be looking at that going, well, what could I choose? I might go for a dark green for that one. And you could be very justified in picking one of these dark greens. So let me grab a couple of dark greens, which are just off stage right. Okay, so this is a dark Christmas green. And actually it looks okay. I wouldn't say no to that. So let's get it into camera there. So I wouldn't say no to that at all. There's a nice balance there, and it just sets off that pink very nicely, and it sets off this limey grunge here again. So let's bear that in mind. Let's have a look at this. This is a grunge Christmas green. And I picked this up because it's got this dark sort of mossy feel in the background, and this has got this dark mossy feel. And in this sort of backing of this, sort of the background of this particular fabric here, it's like a bluey tinge, bluey base to the green, and there's a bluey base in this grunge. So you could possibly choose that. What I think though is it's just fighting a bit. I'm not against the grunge, but it's fighting a little bit with the pattern in this particular fabric here. So I'm not quite sure about that. So I'm going to ditch that. Okay, what other colours could we choose? Well, we've got these pinks and blues here. Let's have a look at, okay, this is a raspberry. This is the grunge raspberry. I like a good grunge. Can you tell? Let's have a look at that. So that actually sets off the greens really nicely. In fact, beautifully, in fact. So it's a complementary to the green. That works really beautifully. It sets off this dark green beautifully. So we're getting in the right direction, but these pinks, if you had this right next to it as a border, these pinks would rather disappear. Can you see it starts blending in? So if I was using this raspberry, I would probably have something in the middle between them, so maybe an outer border of your quilt. But if I'm putting it next to the block, it's just swallowing that pink up within the pattern. So I'm going to put that to one side. Let's have a look at some other burgundies. So this is what have we got here? This is a solid burgundy. I'm not really grabbing these in any order, I just grabbed a pile. So this solid burgundy here, I'm thinking if the pink is in the right direction, and burgundy might be, this is a cool burgundy. Is that working, do you think? Possibly. I might just bear that in mind and just keep that to one side. So it could work. It's not quite there, but it could work. So I'm putting that to one side. Let's try a warmer burgundy. Let's see how that works. Now, can you see that doesn't work? Because we've got very cool colours in here, and this is a warm burgundy, so it's not sitting together. And this is one of the things, is looking at what kind of colour is it? Is it a warm or is it a cool? So if I look at those two together, can you see how this cooler burgundy really sets this off in a very different way to this warm burgundy? So if I was going to choose between the two of those, if I only had the choice of those two, I would definitely choose that particular cool burgundy here. But let's have a look at another couple of colours, because I'm thinking I might be onto something with the burgundy. Now, I picked a couple of pinks because I did wonder about this pink in here. So I've got this is a Rosa, it's called. Now, don't worry about the pattern, because this is the other thing. If you're in a quilt shop and you can see colour going on, don't worry so much about the pattern for now. Try and get the colour right. Then if you see a pattern fabric that you like, then you can narrow down into the colour that's working. So I'm quite interested in a light pink to see if that works. Potentially it could. Pinks and greens go very nicely together. So we've got a pink and a lime, the pink and the dark green there. We've got a cool light pink going on in the flower arrangement here, and these are cool pinks. So there is a potential, if we could find a solid light pink, that might potentially work, but you'd have to test it. Let's go for a darker pink. So this particular one is of the Spectrum range of Moda. And let's have a look at this. Now, these are warm colours. And if I hold this against it, you can see that if I was looking at pinks, does that work? Not really. Ignore the triangles. Just look at the types of the pinks. And can you see how this warm doesn't work against the pinks here? It sort of works with the greens and the lines going on, but it's not quite setting off the pinks and the greens in the pattern here. So I'm going to ditch the corals because we don't like that. Sorry, coral. Now the other thing I've got, greys. I like a grey. So this is the Modal Grunge Smoke, which I love, and in my online shop it's one of my best sellers. It flies out. The grey, don't discount a grey, because look how that beautifully sets it off. And okay, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of different tones and values of grey, but this particular one, the Smoke, really works very beautifully with that. So I think if I was looking for those two, let's have a look at those close together. Let's put that on there, so have a look. Can you see how either of those, depending on the look you were going for, would set this block off very, very beautifully? If it was me, probably I would go for this cool burgundy, because I love strong colours, but you may not like the stronger colours. You may want to go for a softer grey perhaps, but that's still, because it's a very neutral tone, it sets off all of this as well. So when you're auditioning, look at the neutral colours as well as the colours and see how that all works together. And going through this process of auditioning will make such a difference to how your borders work or your sashing strips work. So when you're choosing your colours and picking your colours, just choose the minimum amount and then add as you make up your blocks. And when you're ready to put your borders or sashing on, then take your block into the quilt shop or have a look online and ask for samples and audition those fabrics and see how it works, because they can really make or break your block. Can you see? Just one last tip, if you're still hanging on, thank you, because I'll always throw something in at the end. Greys sometimes aren't grey. They can be fawny greys, they can be more reddy based greys or bluey based greys. This is a bluey based grey, this is a cooler grey, which therefore works with the cooler tones that we've got going on in this block. So you need to be careful, because if I've got a fawny grey, for example, who knew there were that many greys? If I've got a fawny grey, so it would be warm, it wouldn't really work with that. So just a heads up, when you're buying fabrics, look at the different tones and hues of the grey. So I'm mixing all my words up here. But that is why you just don't buy your borders and your sashing up front. I hope that really helps, and you can see now why you would want to build the elements of your quilt up slowly and buy them as you get to them, not all in once at the beginning. I hope that has helped. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I would love you and leave you for now and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.